Welcome to the wonderful world of apples. Starting as early as 65 million years ago, animals began to travel across the ice mass connecting North America to Asia, Beringia. Along with them, they unintentionally brought the ancestor of the apple to Asia. This apple originally resembled a hawthorn with bunches of fruit no bigger than peas. About 12 million years ago, enough time had passed that this tiny apple had evolved into the first recognizable ancestral apple in the Cheyenne and Shanxi provinces. However, 40 million years ago, the Indian landmass crashing into Asia formed the apple's future haven in the Tian Shan Mountains. The area was close enough to the Indian Ocean that the constant warm monsoons kept the region from suffering from the glaciers plaguing North America and Europe. The vegetation wasn't being constantly scraped away by ice, and the slow but constant increase of the mountains continued to expose new soil sites for fresh growth. This created an environment perfect for the growth of the apple pits brought in from other parts of Asia by the birds. The first recognizable apple resembled the Siberian crab.
The apple is a palm-type accessory fruit, meaning that it uses more than just the ovary to create the fruit. It has four main parts: the exocarp, mesocarp, and the endocarp. Then there are pips, or seeds. The pips contain a compound known as cyanide, which birds won't eat for obvious reasons. So they will leave the pips in the closed core, which because of another secondary compound, prevents the seeds from germinating until the placenta is broken and the seeds can be spread out. This can and will determine how the seeds will be dispersed.
During the Miocene, brown bears migrated into the Tian Shan. With an abundance of caves and fruit forests, who wouldn't want to move into the Tian Shan Valley? Originally, the bears would have eaten the small, bitter Neo apples when they came into season right before their hibernation. Just like you and I in the produce aisle, they selected the larger, more enticing apples to eat. It was the seeds of the largest, sweetest apples that were dispersed through the feces and given the opportunity to grow. Additionally, smaller apples can pass through the bear's jaws and digestive system fully intact. The seeds in the small, intact apples wouldn't have germinated. A bear's mouth might be large, but even the larger apples had to be chewed, and it was these more exposed seeds that were pooped out and given the chance to germinate. Current research shows that the hard, tannin-coated apple pip is not damaged by the bear's gut. In the words of the one and only Charles Darwin, large, sweet apples were selected for. All of our evidence would indicate that we should be thanking bears for the evolution of apples into the large, sweet, forbidden fruits that we now know today.
The wild horse migrated from North America over Beringia. Their jaw and gut allow the apple pip to stay completely intact, just like the bear's. They are more efficient than the bear in travel because they would have gone further before relieving themselves and leaving their fecal load with the seeds. While this is efficient, the horses were fearful of the bears inside the forest and were less likely to take the time to search the forest and be selective in their apple choice. Another way that they possibly helped with apple trees was they possibly pushed in the seeds with their hooves. Once the humans came into the picture, it became a whole different situation. The horses and donkeys obviously became domesticated, and so as the humans traveled west with the horses and donkeys, so did the pips in the animals' stomachs. At every oasis, their sharp hooves planted the pips without them even knowing. The patches of fruit that came from this sort of travel and planting determined their direction of travel as the humans traded. These very routes were referred to as the Silk Roads because they were so lush in produce. The newly domesticated horses kept traveling west with the humans.
There are over 20,000 varieties of apples worldwide. Apple trees cannot self-pollinate, but instead depend on pollinators to facilitate the union of egg and sperm from pollen. Bees and other winged pollinators are able to spread pollen over large distances, and for these reasons, different varieties of apple trees have been crossed. Pollinators are not the only ones responsible for the array of apple types. Humans, too, have crossed different varieties in order to create the best-selling, most delicious apple. Even to this day, farmers experiment with new crosses. Unlike oranges, bananas, and other fruits that have become sterile through centuries of cultivation, apple pips are almost always fertile. This is another factor contributing to the abundance of apple varieties. From Johnny Appleseed to Mom's apple pies to Casey's roommate's homebrewed apple cider, apples have certainly become part of our culture and cultures worldwide. It is certainly safe to say that the apple, in all of its shapes and sizes, isn't going anywhere.
Do, do, do.